Prince Harry hinted that he and Meghan are thinking about having a second baby. Apparently, they're both at a place in their lives where they feel like it's time to hire a second full-time nanny. An airline pilot caught pleasuring himself in front of a hotel window will not be charged with indecent exposure. In his defense, he thought the fasten your sexual habits sign was turned off.
No.
An online dating consultant says that the person you matched with on that dating app or website might not actually be human. Clearly, this guy hasn't actually been on a dating app. Ivanka Trump was in Morocco last week to promote economic empowerment of women in developing countries. She wants to show women that with a little hard work and determination, anyone can inherit a lot of money. And finally, the latest Quinnipiac poll shows Kamala Harris polling at 1% in New Hampshire, which is ironic, considering the Democrats always tell you that it's Republicans who are the 1%ers. The Trump Report starts now.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, welcome to the Trump Report. I'm Christian Bladt, joined by our illustrious panel, Galicia.
Hi there. Thanks for remembering my name.
And the guy on the end, Scott. I was called Scott Brown. See what happens when you mess around?
Thank you for getting my name correct.
Yeah. Scott Brown's usually in the chat, not the former senator.
Right.
Scott Moore is here, and he is very active on Twitter. So that's the important thing to know. You have to draw these lines in the sand. Hey, tomorrow's a big day. No more shopping days left. Impeachment hearings are on TV at 8 a.m. Eastern. Scott, what time are you getting up to start watching? You setting the alarm for 4:55?
Yeah.
Our time,
Exactly.
obviously, here on the West Coast.
No, but...
No? Oh, you're going to TiVo it and maybe fast forward?
I'm going to fast forward it,
okay.
yes.
TiVo's still a thing?
That's the
breaking news to me.
First of all, yes, I have a TiVo brand TiVo. Second of all, I think if you cut the cord, you got to buy one from somewhere. So I think I'm not alone there. So Chelsea, you getting up at 4:55? It sounds like a no.
No, I am very much a sleeper.
So you don't care about the impeachment hearings? You don't care about this country? Tell me more.
This is the kind of extremist language that is really not helping.
But it's not really hurting. Not here.
Actually, well, here, no.
This language
but
isn't really hurting.
But in the country, I would say it
probably
actually
not good,
is. Yeah.
Okay.
But I will definitely be tuning in. I hate to call it like just for the highlights, but unfortunately, if you have to be out there, making a living, even if you do work from home like me, you can't be watching impeachment hearings all day. But as much as I can, I will.
You'll be checking it out. Well, let us know in the chat if you're watching live or the archive version. What are you most looking forward to in the impeachment hearing?
I mean, I am looking forward to seeing how many people actually tune in. Like it could be. I mean, I wonder if this will be like the new trial of the century and like. OJ
of this
is
century?
going to...
Yeah, I mean, OJ was last century. That's old stuff. We don't talk about old stuff anymore. OJ refers to that as the LA thing. That's how he, on Twitter, refers to that incident. He's people talk to me about the LA thing.
Unfortunately,
that's old stuff.
It's like this, where people get their civics lessons from.
Right. And going back to the Nixon hearings before they went into full impeachment mode, there's something like 80% of the country at that point in time was listening or watching impeachment and to see how it's gone down. And even when the Clinton impeachment hearings were going on, we didn't really have the multitude of social media, obviously, and the digital and everyone kind of in their own place. So
with Watergate, we had like 6 channels. So that's different.
Yeah.
With Clinton, we had like, I think the Bruce Springsteen song is 57 channels and nothing on. That's for you, Ryan.
57
There you
channels
go.
and nothing on.
See, and you said you were losing your voice. You sound magnificent.
Thank you.
Now we have, what, a billion? If you haven't cut the cord, you have like a billion channels. If you have, well, you're back down to like 6. So it's full circle. But I'm interested in who is going to appear. I really, really, really want John Bolton to talk.
I do too.
Feel like he's got good stuff to say, and I think he knows it's going to help him sell books if he does this. You can skip the press tour for the book when it does come out if you go and you testify and you tell. Like, I'm not saying even dress up. I'm saying tell what you actually know. I mean, he resigned for a reason, and you can think what you want about John Bolton, but If you disparage his mustache, I will walk off this set. But once we get past that, you can think what you want about him as a person. But whatever it was, he was just like, yeah, I can't do this anymore.
He's definitely got the goods. And he has to think of the long term as well. Like, is he, being a lifelong Republican, does he want to be working in a future Republican administration? And how much is he going to say that's going to kind of protect himself as well? And how much he would be willing to throw Trump under the bus, knowing that at the end of the day, Trump is going to be out of the picture at some point, and John Bolton's still going to want to work with future administrations, ostensibly. So it's an interesting line to see how much he's willing to share.
Do you think John Bolton is looking for a role in the Pence administration? Is that the way you're looking? And I'm sorry.
I'm not sure Pence is looking for a job in the Pence administration.
Well, what does Mother think? Because if Mother wants him to have a role in the Pence administration, then I think that's what he'll be planning on doing. I don't know. I mean, I just felt like Bolton's the person I am most interested to hear what they have to say.
Definitely.
If we actually hear from him. And we might not. Is there somebody else that I'm not thinking of, Chelsea, that is, that maybe I would get up at, well, not 4:55, but maybe 6:55. I have two kids. I'm up before 6 o'clock.
I know. I was going to say that's an unfair advantage.
But before 5, I'm not up. So
yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything.
Okay.
But I'll be sure to let you know if I change my mind, and I'll be feverishly texting you.
What if Don Jr. decides that this is the best way to promote his book?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then wouldn't it be funny, like, if history repeats itself and the Republicans are the one that boo him out of the hearings?
Yeah, because that's what that happened at an event. I think it was at UCLA. Here, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was booed out of the event by
Trump supporters.
Trump supporters. Yeah, I was going to say Republicans, but I think that this ideology is a little bit further removed. This was like white nationalists, which to some people that could be considered the base, but at the same time,
to some people, to who is it not considered the base?
John Bolton. I'm just gonna think of somebody that's gonna say that's not. Don Jr. clearly, didn't want to hear from them, but
well, they were protesting because he refused to answer questions, and I seriously wonder why he refuses to answer questions when the whole premise of his book, I think it's called like Triggered, mm-hmm. why the left is trying to silence us or something. Yeah. And yet people want him to answer questions and he won't. So
it's like how if you believe in free speech, you have to let the Ku Klux Klan have a parade. I mean, it's like if you're going to stand by it, you can't just be like, oh yeah, anybody can say what they want except for, people that I disagree with.
Although I do think, hopefully, we are headed into the age of nuance, because there is no such thing as an absolute freedom. Doesn't matter if it's outlined in the Constitution or not. There are exceptions, and there are
So the truths are no longer self-evident? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Freak, I need a better comeback than the one that's going on in my head.
Oh, I hope it has a swear word in it.
Might. But the idea that you have to be extreme. If you believe in the First Amendment, everybody gets to say anything, anytime, anywhere. But that's just not how it is.
Right. Well, there's always been exceptions. Right. I mean, as the one of us who went to law school, I don't need to explain to you, but more conversationally for the audience, you can't yell fire in a movie theater. Correct. There are certain things that are not covered under free speech.
Right. And if I were to make like a imminent threat to your life right here and now,
which I think you just did.
That is not constitutionally protected. Right. So if people find themselves in conversations where they hear somebody arguing, well, if you believe in the First Amendment, it's either all or nothing, they should start to say, hey, there's this word called nuance, and you should look it up. Because I think that's going to be like my word of 2020 is like, can we look at the nuance? Can we let go of the extremes?
Yeah.
And I think it can be funny for somebody watching the show who's watched us for a while and who thinks that I'm like an extreme leftist. But I actually think that moving to the left is actually moving us to the middle, because we've slid so far to the right over the last 4 years. So I just had to say that because I thought some people might raise an eyebrow.
But if you moved to the left from where you were when we started the first show, would you say that is more left than the majority of the country? Like by first show, I mean during the Democratic Convention in 2016.
I don't think it's to the left of the majority of the country. I do think it's to the left of where the political establishment would have us be, which is very, very far right.
Right. So, we were talking about Don Jr. I didn't expect to mention him, but he did have an appearance on The View, which I watched while I was at the gym, as you can tell, because I'm so buff. And
I love that image in my mind of Christian.
I'm just on the treadmill.
With the headband on and
yeah, I have like 70s Boston Celtics shorts on. Yeah. It's interesting because it's clearly he came prepared for who he was going to talk to, because Joy Behar did mention that she had appeared in blackface once, but I mean now blackface, it's like you get elected in this country and in Canada, so it doesn't matter anymore. But he brought up points about both of them, about both she and Whoopi Goldberg, and I don't know if people find that kind of television enjoyable to watch because there's always a lot of yelling. I think it was good for, I don't know who in the View audience was going to buy his book, but maybe some people who would have bought his book ended up watching The View. I don't know how well that promotion worked, but I find them interesting. And it was, ironically, it was The View's like 5,000th show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of, that sort of discourse. And usually to me, like The View is like Joy Behar fighting with Meghan McCain, and then this was a time where like everybody disliked the guy in the panel kind of an equal amount, including his girlfriend, Kimberly Guilfoyle. This is a little joke. I'm sure she likes him for some reason. So I don't know. I mean, did either of you see any of that? Any highlights or?
I haven't watched The View since Elizabeth Hasselbeck days, so I really can't be
the
asked
golden
to
age.
chime in on this.
Elizabeth and Rosie were on. Yeah, that was the golden age.
since
But I did see Don Jr.'s girlfriend try and, I don't know if she was trying to stick up for Don Jr. at the UCLA event or she was trying to shut up the people who were protesting.
It was a little bit of both,
which is a little ironic given the title of the book. But she was trying to, low blows about why they have to online date or something because they can't find women in real life or something.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah, I did see that.
Nice.
Well, some people, when they look for somebody to date, they think of, what's the name of the president? Is there anybody else that has that name too? Oh, hey, I know, Donald Trump Jr. Anyway, so I want to know what you both think in terms of not the public persona. What do you think President Trump, I was going to say Donald Trump, but then we were just talking about Jr., so it's confusing. What do you think President Trump thinks as this impeachment is going? He tweeted 82 times. I think that was just Sunday. So he feels like he's doing a lot of spin, and considering how many followers he has, it's probably not hurting with the people that he's looking to vote for him. But what do you think is actually going on in his head? And I know that's probably a place you don't want to go. But in terms of actual thought, do you think he's worried? Let's put it on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried he is behind closed doors. I'll ask you first, Chelsea.
How worried on a scale of 1 to 10 is Donald Trump? I think, this whole raises the question of worry. Does that mean that he has a conscience? And,
well, here's the thing about worry is that he's worrying about, if he gets impeached, and he could be removed from office, even though he thinks it's unlikely. But it just sort of depends on what comes out in this hearing. I mean, the fine that he got for what he did with his charitable organization,
$2 million.
To me, that's so much more significant than a conversation with the president of Ukraine. Not that isn't it, but I'm like, $2 million. That's a bigger deal to me. But anyway, sorry. So
and that would. We can't really impeach him for that.
I guess that's why he doesn't care.
Because it was for conduct before he was president.
Exactly.
Right, sure.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that is like so far down on our radar of stories is just, it's very telling of this administration. But I think Donald Trump is doing what he does best, is he will just deflect, obfuscate, create more chaos, wreak more havoc. Just, if he says something funny or idiotic in a tweet, we will all the squirrel thing, we'll turn our attention there and analyze that. And so we'll take our eye off the ball. And so I think that's just his go-to move that he reflexively goes to.
Yeah, I mean, he could, pull out something that will distract people. One of the gems from when he was pre-president, before he was president, he could just remind us that you can't be a supermodel if you're an A cup. He could just put something like that out there, and I think that all of a sudden a lot of attention would be paid to that. So do you have a number on the scale of 1 to 10 for how worried you think he is? I'll allow negative numbers, although I don't know that I feel like that's accurate. I feel like there's a higher than 0% concern from him. It's not about conscience or morals. It's about like getting caught and being punished for it. I think that is what I'm wondering about.
I think he, I don't know, very low, between 0 and 3, like worried about it. Ego might be freaking out. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine him as somebody who worries about getting caught for doing something wrong, because
no, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with you. It's about a 2 is my guess. Scott, what do you think? Same question, scale of 1 to 10, and then the follow-up will be, where do you think it should be?
Oh my God.
Well, I mean,
because you run the impeachment desk over there here on the show.
I think like you guys were saying is that worry, I'm not sure is the right word, but I do think that and concern's not really the right word, but regardless of just having that I next to his name, of knowing that he's been impeached, because let's be honest, it looks like he will be in the House at least, and having that is something that would be on his legacy. And I think that beyond all the other things that are going on and what people are going to say about him and his administration, having that is always going to be with him, like it is with Bill Clinton and his presidency. So I don't think he clearly likes that. And but as far as being worried, I don't think that's something he's doing on a daily basis. I think, like you said, he's going to get out of it.
In some senses,
in the Senate.
Part of him, I think, is excited because the ego relishes almost in being
chaos.
attacked and then in fighting back. And there is some momentum that gets created when you have something to fight up against.
You have an enemy that you can...
Right.
Exactly. So it riles him up and it just gives him something to fight against. And so I think he actually may enjoy it more than worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's fairly accurate. I think that the next few weeks he's like, oh great, this is what I do best, and in some ways he'll see it as basically free campaign advertising. I mean, look what they're doing to me. And he hasn't called himself, I was just about to say, look what they're doing to your favorite president. He hasn't called himself our favorite president in a long time.
No, but he called himself the most transparent president, which is almost just as insulting.
Yes.
Oh, he did say that.
Yes.
I did. You know what? I missed that one.
He's going to release the transcripts because he's the most transparent president.
Yeah. Well, I love how we're being told that the transcripts are perfect, which is such a weird... It's not just him. That seems to be sort of the company line on them. And I'm like, what do you mean? What's perfect? Right. I mean, I can't imagine that even if there weren't anything that seemed fishy on there. I wanted to talk about... This is less about impeachment, but there were these claims from Nikki Haley that both Rex Tillerson and John Kelly tried to recruit her to, quote, save the country by, also a quote, undermining and ignoring Trump. Now, this is a story that we've heard before, not literally this part, but that they'll take stuff off of his desk. They'll put, they'll try to make sure he doesn't pay attention to certain things so that they don't get signed or he doesn't follow through on something. And for clarification, I don't know that John Kelly has, but I did see that Rex Tillerson has said, this didn't happen. So that tells me that John Kelly definitely said it because he hasn't tried to, he's just like...
Right.
Nope, no news today. I didn't show up in any Google alerts. So I'm sort of wondering, what do you think... well, let me ask first, Scott, do you think that this is an accurate statement from Nikki Haley, or do you think she made this up to sell a book? Because there is a book.
Right.
There's always a book.
It's book season.
Yes. I think there's a little of both. Maybe there was some kind of discussion, maybe not quite to the point that she said that it was, but she's trying to toe this very difficult line right now where she's trying to remove herself enough from Trump and the administration. So because I clearly see some future runs in her, even if, the claim is she's going to be the VP replacement for Pence. But I think down the line, regardless, she's going to want to run for president. And having the executive experience as a term and a half governor of South Carolina and everything else, and being a conservative woman will probably lead her to be kind of popular in Republican circles if she chooses to run down the road. So she's trying to, I think, do this difficult line with the book and still being like, yes, I was part of the administration and I was doing what I needed to do, and these other people were trying to get me to do other things, so that she can kind of keep a clean look on both sides for the base of the Trump supporters and also for the people in Republican circles and independents that don't like Trump, but she would need their votes. And so I think there's a little bit of a game going on there, and also, again, to sell books, and it sounds more exciting. But I don't think exactly that happened. There was probably some truth to it, and now she's, embellished it and made it into something more than it was.
What do you think, Chelsea? Do you think it happened the way that she's characterizing it, that they actively were trying to save the country by, undermining Trump, basically?
I'm sure that is a reasonable interpretation of what Rex Tillerson and John Kelly were trying to do, even though they may not have said, hey, we're doing this, we're taking stuff off of his desk specifically so we can undermine the president and we can save the country. They probably didn't say all that, but they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't share that with him. Maybe just let him focus on this, that, or the other. And so things like that, where she could say, I think what's going on here is these two guys are trying to undermine him. So I don't think that's crazy. But what I do think it's crazy is when she tried to actually say, oh, yes, Trump is truthful. She tried to tell Savannah Guthrie, oh, yes, what was it? She cares about the country, but then Ukraine and corruption was her answer to the question about how is this good for America. She is, I don't see, not like I really took her all that serious before, but she did look, compared to everybody else in the administration, to have something between the ears. And with what she said in the last couple of days, just has completely lost me for much of any respect that I had left for her. I book or no book, I just cannot believe that she would say some of the things that she said. I just don't know how anybody could try and defend the honesty of the president. Yeah. I think even people in his base say, well, sure, he doesn't tell the truth, but everybody acknowledges it. So for her to be saying that, I just don't get what she's trying to convince. What she's trying to do. Audience of one. Is Trump going to buy all of her books or something? I just don't.
Possible.
Get it.
Yeah, who knows? I know. It felt like she's, again, like what I was saying earlier, like she's trying to appeal to everybody in this weird, like, let me try to get some Trump supporters, but let me not be very clear, so that way I'm not turning off the non-Trump Republicans.
She's very clearly not all there.
Yeah. No. I don't know what she's trying to do, but it seems like she's trying to fit in for everybody, so she can get the vote down the road.
Speaking of votes down the road, we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of months on this panel, and mostly because I bring it up so often, about how a lot of Democrats, but also just in general undecided voters, are a little bit underwhelmed by the entire field of candidates running against Donald Trump. And I think it's because they haven't seriously looked at Marianne Williamson and what she would offer. But apart from that, I also think that they're just sort of nobody's excited about anyone, in the way that you had, like.
I object.
There's no Obama there. You can like Elizabeth Warren, but it's not that kind of a movement. It's like, yes, her crowds are. I even said on here I was really impressed just how many people were turning up. Not that she had big crowds, but like the numbers were 15,000, 20,000 in places that I didn't even think there were 15,000 people in the state. So it can be impressive, but I think that in general, people who casually follow politics don't go like, oh, I really want to know more about this Barack Obama, so there isn't somebody like that. But I don't know that the answer is Mike Bloomberg. But is it because it's just somebody else getting into the race that people seem excited about this?
People are excited. I must miss that.
I know.
If you believe headlines and chatter,
and Judge Judy,
Judge Judy really put herself out there, which was really funny because she's like taking a risk in her career. She never talks about politics, but she thinks Mike Bloomberg should run, and I'm like, how's that going to hurt her career?
It's almost impossible. She owns her own show. She's the highest earning person on television by like $1 million.
She's fine.
She's going to be fine. If she did something truly controversial, like if she'd come out and said, I think Donald Trump Jr. should have let those white nationalists speak. Okay, that's a little troubling. I think she'd still be okay. But that's like a little bit more of a, just saying you want Mike Bloomberg to be president. So it's not just Judge Judy. And I mean, Deval Patrick wants to run, and I'm like, I had to think for a minute about who that was. He was also a former governor of Massachusetts, I believe, after Mitt Romney.
After Mitt Romney, yes.
So that clearly, governor of Massachusetts is a path to not being president. So I mean, that's something to keep in mind for Deval Patrick.
That's true.
But neither of these names, neither of these names, I think. If there were like 4 people running for president, okay, then maybe like Mike Bloomberg's the 5th now. That could be interesting. But there's so many. And Chelsea, you didn't even know that people were excited about this. Did you even know that Deval Patrick was talking about running?
No.
Okay. So
I know about Bloomberg.
Well, yeah. I mean, Bloomberg is making sure that people know. I think.
Right.
I think those feelers are out there. Do you think that someone who is I'm leaning towards Mayor Pete. Oh, maybe I still like what Bernie has to say. Maybe they're a little bit on the fence. Is it going to be like, oh my God, Mike Bloomberg, the guy who put a tax on sodas in New York City? I want that guy. That's the guy that I want.
Although, I mean,
see now that's your issue. That's your issue. Yeah.
No, because literally without something like that, we are going to be well on our way to diabetes for all before we ever have Medicare for all.
I believe that ship has sailed. I think that
it is that kind of thing that makes me personally a little leery about Medicare for all, because if I try and eat well and therefore keep my healthcare costs low, now I got to pay for you when you voluntarily consume a bunch of garbage voluntarily, and then knowing that it is harmful to you, doctors tell you stop eating it. I mean, and you don't, and then your foot is, starts to fall off, and now we got to pay for it.
At the same time, in the same city, a pack of cigarettes was $10. I think it's $12 now. So clearly, like, if you tax something that people want, they'll find the money. It's fine. They'll pay for it.
That's fine. But then if that money goes to then take care of their foot falling off and I don't have to pay for it, that's fine. If these people want to pay for their own harm to themselves, great. I would like to put in money for a Medicare for all for people who are trying at least to do, a basic, job of trying to take care of themselves. And the problem is that we have, big soda is probably, a huge lobby. And so it's going to be very difficult to push back on the sugar that bombards us and a whole bunch of crap, stuff in our air and our water, all that kind of stuff is making us sick, makes medical costs go way up. And that's why this is so expensive. If we could clean up all of that, then maybe healthcare wouldn't be as expensive.
So you're endorsing Mike Bloomberg for president, is what you're saying. You like what he has to say.
Wow, look what you just got.
I was able to take that from you.
That is all just to say that I'm not opposed to that kind of thinking. I don't know if that's quite the solution. I think restricting a lobby, any lobby, whether it's the sugar lobby or care what kind of lobby, from being able to be so influential and get their products paid for by what food stamps is now called
EBT.
Yeah, that you can now go through the drive-through and get non-Impossible burgers from Burger King. I mean, is just unbelievable. Now, if I would allow EBT to be used for the Impossible,
would you let them buy fries? See, you're being very specific now. And that's the sort of thing I remember when I was a kid. I understood. I wasn't real little, but I understood what food stamps were. I remember watching the person in front of me, and I didn't say it then. I knew to be polite, but I was talking to my mom. I was like, so they could buy like Twinkies and Coke with their food stamps. My mom was like, well, yeah, you can buy anything that's food. And I was like,
but that is not food.
No. Well, I mean, as a kid, I was just like, I was surprised.
Yeah.
That it's like, but it's like, look, if you end up on food stamps or EBT, sure, you should be able to choose. But at the same time, it's like they're paying for garbage, and it's like, yeah. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying.
They're a pawn in the fast food industries, So I'm actually kidding about that Impossible Burger should be on the EBT. I don't think so. I don't think that's true.
No, I mean, I would think I can understand taking it at a restaurant of some kind, but it's...
and I would remove taxes from produce, frozen produce, fresh produce.
That's fair.
Well, most
Even
some states
canned.
don't have taxes on some of that food. So if you go to certain states, they don't have any
Because
tax.
right now with the subsidies, the fact that you can get a cheeseburger for the same price of an apple is totally wrong.
And I think that's part of the issue. It's a bigger thing besides Mike Bloomberg taxing the sodas. It's the fact that, in a way, sugar is like a drug.
It absolutely is a drug,
and
not
it's
even
cheaper,
in a way.
processed food is cheaper, so there's
Why-
underlying problems. So people
That's
can go
crazy
in
that-
and get that versus...
That you can
fresh
raise
produce.
a whole cow with all the water and the food that it takes, pump it full of chemicals, transport it, take it to be slaughtered, have all these people work on processing the get it into a burger, ship it off frozen to McDonald's, and that all of that process is cheaper than growing an apple out of the ground should be astonishing and disgusting to people.
Right, but that's part of... So it's a bigger underlying problem between that and I would... And as much as I agree with you that I hate paying for other people's issues...
Voluntary signing up to get diabetes issues.
I do think that if... Well, profit is way too high in health insurance anyways, which should never be. But if, again, collectively we can get everybody's health in check, it makes it better for everybody's as far as the whole country, the workforce. Everybody's in a better place, because otherwise it drags down everything else when that same person is going to the ER and we're paying on their taxes for that, and now they're not working, and that affects everything else. So in a way, it's like the sacrifice of being able to make sure we have a stronger society overall that can work and that can contribute and that...
Which is why this Medicare for all thing should be going second to the anti-corruption, pro-democracy type stuff that Elizabeth Warren is trying to promote. The fact that Joe Biden is coming down on I'm anti-Medicare for all, like, is whatever. I want to hear where he stands on her anti-corruption stuff, because that's the thing that we need first. And I think, actually, I hate to say this, that Mark Cuban is accurate when he calls out Elizabeth Warren for, misleading us on Medicare for all, that she's going to be able to implement all of this in 4 years. I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either.
Also, the fact that the anti-corruption stuff needs to go in so that we can start getting healthier as individual, like literally our physical health can be better, and that the health of our democracy can be strong enough for it to go into effect. So that's a whole long way to say that Elizabeth Warren needs to shift her focus. I wish everybody would shift their focus, but the problem is do you get these surveys texted to you before the debates asking you, what is your priority of the issues? Yeah, we all get them. You get them?
Well, no, but I did get a text that was addressed to my wife from the Yang Gang, and wanted to know where I would rank Andrew.
And yeah, now I was going to
See, I've done the game. I did the game too long, where I almost got it wrong, and then you almost got it wrong. Where I ranked Andrew Yang between 1 and 5 of my candidates. And I didn't write back because what I was thinking was I wanted to try and be funny, but I was just like, I'm
like 6?
Well, I was just like, I mean, like probably right around 14th, which is probably not necessarily accurate, but I was just going to be obnoxious. But what I really wanted to write back was, I'll put him at number 1 if I can get that $1,000 a month. If you want to send that to me, I'll tell you right now, I'll vote for him. But so I get those, but I haven't gotten the ones you're talking about.
So they're asking us,
not every time,
and
but
apparently
sometimes.
Everybody keeps putting healthcare, which is going to show that we have not. My message has not gotten through to the American people.
And it's
that
not.
Medicare for all is got to be second. Everything else has to be second to cleaning up our democracy.
Don't understand that, and it's not a tangible thing. Much like going back to the Mueller report and the impeachment with Donald Trump, there was too much there. They don't quite understand how that affects
Forget it. Maybe we
them.
need better public education first, and
yes.
then we can have pro-democracy stuff. And then, I mean, this is just...
Yeah, it's just... it's speaking of nuance, I think it's just too nuanced for them.
Just to backtrack to what started this conversation, I wanted to know, Scott, your thoughts about Mike Bloomberg and/or Deval Patrick.
I think we've already had the billionaire in the race, and look, he is a real billionaire that actually started his company from scratch. He has a lot of Trumpian tendencies, though. He went from the 2 terms that they had in New York City and had them overturn it so he could run for a 3rd term.
Yeah. Which under de Blasio, they're like, no, let's not have that 3rd term thing anymore. Yeah, let's make sure we get rid of that.
I don't know what he thinks by jumping in this late, and he's avoiding Iowa and New Hampshire, what he thinks he would be getting out of this. And again, it seems like Tom Steyer, you could be using your money in a better place than your vanity project here for running for president, because it's not going to go anywhere. And I think the biggest fear for everybody, even if they like their candidates, which a lot of polls still do say Democrats are pretty satisfied with the choice they have, even though I do agree with you, there's not that passionate person like a Barack Obama or Bill Clinton in 1992.
That was such a letdown that I'm like not even.
Well, no, but I'm saying
anymore.
like just the passionate. Politician that's very good, like Bill Clinton in 1992. People
are starting to see through charisma, hopefully, and wanting to get actual, analysis on real policy.
But charisma is always going to draw people, because you've got to have that to get people to be passionate to vote for you. And so I do understand there's not that person right now. You need that person to carry the message, essentially. But I think the biggest fear is they're worried that, again, if we don't find that right person that's going to get people out to vote, that people still won't be motivated enough, and Donald Trump will be able to eke out another win. And this time he could win, losing the popular vote by 5 million or more, and still eke out a win. So I think that's the greatest concern is, do people feel there's a candidate there that's going to draw the people out? And I would say yes, because we saw the election results just last week across the country, and I think enough people are animated and driven now on the Democratic side that at this point, whoever it is, yes, there might be a point or two difference, but I think, which could affect some states, but I think people are going to be very motivated to vote. There was a poll today in Arizona, and it was neck and neck.
Yeah, and, there's always someone who thinks that they're that person
Christian's
who could
favorite
come
person.
in. Well, Mark Penn said on, I believe it was on Fox News Sunday, he said somewhere over the weekend that don't rule out Hillary.
Right.
And I'm just saying, I've been saying it. I've never stopped saying it.
No, we've said
and
it
I'm going
for
to keep
months.
on saying it until, it has to be the day after Election Day. Then I'll stop saying it. Although then I'll be like, well, 2024 is looking pretty good.
Yeah. No, I'd still say, like, maybe she'll come in if there's a contested election, and she'll be like, look, guys, I'll come in and save the day.
I'll save everything, yeah. The thing about Bloomberg looking to get right into Super Tuesday, I didn't remember this, but I was listening to a show this morning that reminded me that's what Giuliani tried to do. He was going for the Republican nomination.
Yep.
And I don't know that that's a blueprint to follow. Nope. Rudy Giuliani as mayor, you can. It's tough to argue with some of the successes, but as a campaign trying to become a nominee for president, as being a lawyer to a president, I don't know that you want to follow those. But
No.
So Hillary's still lurking.
Yes.
That's the point.
It's true. I think she is still lurking, and we've talked about this for months.
What are you guys
No, I'm saying
It's not just me. I'm not the only one.
And people were talking about if she jumped in the race, that
Oh
would be the
my
change.
God.
People are actually saying that in the polls that or an Oprah or somebody big like Deval Patrick.
Well, Oprah, that's different. That's a celebrity.
Now I would.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you would
or
be
Hillary
excited.
Clinton, like somebody like that at this point in the game would change potentially the dynamics. Otherwise, nobody else coming in the race is really going to change the dynamics that much. Like the Bloombergs, like Deval Patrick, nothing's going to change. They're going to be in the low single digits. So it would be someone like that. And again, I hope she does not run, but I do agree with Christian, and I've said this. If she feels that she's got a way in, she will jump back in, because she's always wanted this. So
Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe she shows up for the debate next Wednesday.
I want to ask real quick.
Yes,
y'all.
sir.
Do you think Hillary would not join if Trump is? Do you think Hillary would be more likely to join if Trump is impeached versus if he's not?
That's a good question.
question.
I don't know that would, because she would definitely have people telling her whether or not she can win, and I don't think that makes her more likely to win. I think she wants to get in regardless. So I don't know that she's more likely because of that. But what do you think, Scott?
I think perhaps the revenge part of it, of being able to go in if he was running again and being able to beat him.
Well, as she says, beat him
Electoral
again.
College.
Beat him again.
Yes,
because she did beat him in the popular
and
vote.
beat him in the Electoral College, and actually beat him, I think would be probably her most ideal. Because then it's always in the back of your mind, like, oh, I didn't beat that person. So probably the preference would be that she'd be able to take him on again. And in the past, it used to be candidates would run again and again against each other and lose, or win. That used to be the thing. But in modern times, once you lose the first time around, you usually don't come back again. But in the past, that was a regular thing. We just have gotten away from that to some degree. You think of Adlai Stevenson against Eisenhower. You think of William Jennings Bryan, who ran like 3 different times.
Yeah, he did.
And a lot of candidates would go back and run again.
And you have like former presidents like Teddy Roosevelt who decided to get back in. Yeah. So I know it's your least favorite topic, Chelsea, so we can just move on.
Thank you.
But we only have a few minutes, and you referenced it, and it was something that we were talking a lot about on last Tuesday's show, which is the Kentucky gubernatorial race. And I believe that a concession has not happened yet. There's a lot of lawyers involved. And I think that there are a lot of instances where you can point to suspicious electoral returns. But what I would say is not suspicious is when a small majority of about, I think, 5,000 people vote for a Democrat for one office against someone who's ranked the most unpopular governor in the country. And then down the rest of the ticket, they vote for Republicans. So if you're going to stuff the ballot box, would just sneak in maybe 1 or 2 other Democrats. Instead, you're just like, oh, no. So, I mean, would it be too suspicious? So to me, it's just like, oh, yeah, and there's like these 5,000 ballots that have all Democrats. I don't know what I think about that. We are Kentucky, after all. It's just like, dude, people hate you.
Right.
And they don't like you. That's what that should be telling you.
Yes.
But I don't know. I mean, just I wanted to kind of get, because we were talking so much about it and you brought it up, let me ask Scott first. Your thoughts about this idea of like, let's challenge the results. It reminds me of Citizen Kane. He's running for governor of New York, and they print 2 papers. One, Charles Foster Kane wins. And then the second headline, fraud at the polls, because there's no other alternative. So that's like 1941, I think. And that's still the thinking out there. It's like either I won or they rigged it.
Right.
So what do you think about Matt Bevin's approach here?
Well, I think it's a dry run, a dress rehearsal to what we could see from Donald Trump next year if he loses, and kind of cut in the vein of Donald Trump. And, Trump went down there and did this big rally and purposely even said, which is the funnier part, about how, this is a personal thing if Matt Bevin were to lose. And then the next day, the ridiculous lies, I felt like we were living North Korea again. Oh, he was down 17 points and I brought him back. I mean, the ridiculousness is insane. But yeah, Matt Bevin should step aside. And it is logical to think, not only was he not liked, but people were comfortable enough in Kentucky to vote for the Beshear name. Andy Beshear's father was governor right before, and for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so you do have a back and forth with Democrats, and it goes back to the Deep South with the governors that do flip, like Roy Cooper's Democrat governor in North Carolina. We have John Bel Edwards that's likely going to win re-election in Louisiana this weekend. So it's not completely unusual. I think people felt comfortable enough. I think Andy Beshear ran a great campaign. He talked about economic issues. It wasn't drilling in about impeachment. And he made people feel comfortable enough to vote for him, and that should say something. And it should also scare Republicans.
Do you think it should scare Mitch McConnell?
It should scare Mitch McConnell a lot, yes, although his guy won in Attorney General, and I'm sure that guy's going to now run against Andy Beshear in 2023. But yeah, Matt Bevin should step aside, be an adult, walk away gracefully, because it just looks bad when you don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made that Al Gore could have dragged that out a lot longer, and whether he won or not. But there were, I mean, what was it, 526 votes or whatever?
537.
Oh yeah,
I was one of them.
537. Yeah, I forgot. It's 537.
I voted in Florida in that election for him.
So that's pretty small. Like you could probably, but then he's just like, this isn't really good for the country to keep it going. But maybe he just doesn't. He maybe just doesn't care. What do you? We're out of time, but I did want to let you finish on this, Chelsea. It can be about that specific race, or about the idea of like, I didn't win. Well, let's see what the courts can do to help us.
Yeah, I see that from a lot of people that I wish wouldn't do that, and the vice versa of the people that I wish did that won't do that. But I think overall, when you look back at last week, it feels like you were looking at the little nuance, which maybe we should be, but overall it feels like it was a big Democratic win. So I think that is breathing a little bit of life into the Democratic Party. Whether
absolutely.
that's going to translate next year or not, but that's, I think, where the party is.
I think so. When you see Pennsylvania results in Delaware County and you see Virginia going completely blue, it's definitely a warning shot for Republicans, for sure.
Well, that is all the time we have for this week. Now, next week, we'll be back at a special time, somewhere between 8 and 10 Pacific. Stay tuned, and we'll make sure to let you know, because we have another debate that night. So I believe Scott will be there. Somebody who will not be there, because she'll be in Hawaii.
Thank you for not saying the island.
I don't. Do you think people are going to go looking for the whole island to find you?
It's just weird.
Yeah. So Chelsea won't be here, but look for us then, and you can find that time. We'll post it at Trump Report ABTV. But until then, Chelsea, where can people find you?
At Chelsea Galicia, and not in Hawaii.
Not in Hawaii. Yeah, she's gone on vacation. She's gone to Staten Island. Okay, that's the big island she's gone to. And Scott, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SManAD. That's SMan80.
And I'm at Christian DMZ. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday night after the debate.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.